opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
Even the government agrees.
He's a dangerous man!
Niggas is decaf, I stick 'em for the cream.
Hey, yo, check this out. This is Flavor Flav, and if you want the whole truth and nothing but the whole truth, so help the whole truth. Hey, yo, you better listen to Dante, baby. Dante!
What's going on, guys? And welcome to another great edition of the Dante's Boxing Nation Show. I am your host, and we have another great show for you guys, as always. I want to first go ahead and give shouts out to boxingtalk.com and also the new boxing website, nationboxing.com. Go ahead and check it out. We have all your boxing news and all that stuff in store for you guys, all right? So let me go ahead and introduce my only guest that I have today. We're going to do it EPMD style. My man on the phone with me, Boxing Ego, one of the best channels out there on YouTube. What's going on, Boxing Ego?
What's up? Like you said, EPMD, back in business.
Yeah, back in business, strictly business is going down. It's going down. So anyway, man, hey, Ego, we got a lot of stuff that's been going on, man. A lot of stuff been brewing, some good, some bad, some, surprising to me. But, let's talk about, of course, the roller coaster negotiations that's going on when it comes to Mayweather, Pacquiao. 1 minute, Mayweather and Pacquiao, they're meeting face-to-face, and it seems like the fight is going to happen for sure. Floyd Mayweather, he comes to Manny Pacquiao's hotel suite. They talk for about a good hour or so, and it seems like everything is positive. And then all of a sudden, a week later, now we back to the same talk. Bob Arum, now he's saying, that the team Mayweather, they're dragging their feet, and he says that he sends them a draft, and then every time he sends them a draft, they basically send something back that's something different. So, I mean, who are we supposed to believe? HBO is chiming in, and they're basically saying, look, we don't have anything to do with the negotiations, basically saying that it has nothing to do with them, pointing the finger at the participants, meaning Mayweather and Pacquiao or their teams. I mean, who are we supposed to blame? Is there still any time for us to get this fight, Boxing Ego?
Yeah, I definitely think the fight can be made. As far as who to believe, it's ultimately, if you're not in that room, you're not on the negotiating table with them, then you really don't know. So what it boils down to is people are going to side with whoever side that they like. If you're a Pacquiao fan, then everything Bob Arum and Pacquiao say, then you're going to go with that and run with that as your truth because you don't know, because you're not in the business room or on the phone or wherever getting faxes with contracts and stuff. If you're a Mayweather fan, same thing. If you rep TMT, you like Mayweather's side, then you're going to, anything that Mayweather says or anything that supports Mayweather, you're going to go with that. So ultimately, we don't know as fans. We're really in this situation. We're just pawns, and they're going to negotiate and do whatever they do. I hope the fight gets made. I think it can get made. It's just a matter of, hashing out whatever differences they have. And, again, I mean, this whole fight it went on too long. So I really don't know what to believe at this point. I personally think both parties have had some involvement in the fight not happening, whether it was Pacquiao and the drug testing or just negative comments and jabs that they've taken at the other side, both Floyd's side and Pacquiao's side. So there's a lot that goes into it. Me personally, I just want to see this damn fight, and I think it can get made if they all act and don't like it, and just really hash it out, like I said, and get it done.
Yeah, and like I said, we still got 2 months left, more than 2 months. I mean, the whole thing is people saying, we're running out of time, but training camps are usually only about 2 months or even less. So we're at it's the beginning of February now. They have all the time in the world to still promote this fight. This is not, I know this is the biggest fight that can be made, which is the reason why I don't believe you need 4 months to promote this fight. The fight is going to promote itself. So, yeah, definitely it can still happen. I keep hearing people say, it's too late now, that now, they're going to fight other fighters. But my whole thing is even if Mayweather and Pacquiao were to fight other opponents, they're still going to be, having the same amount of time to train and promote the fight. So it's no different than still making the Manny Pacquiao fight. So another thing too is we really don't know what's being said in negotiations. I really hate how some people, when it comes to Bob Arum, how they mislead people, trying to get everyone to believe that Manny Pacquiao signed the contract. Now we find out that was never the case. He never signed the contract. And my whole thing is, why even say we've agreed to all terms if you haven't signed the contract? Why even say that? You know what I mean? So, I mean, I really hope that this fight gets made, man. I really hope that it gets made. Stephen Espinoza, he said something like, we're basically 2/3, past the minefield, or the landmines or whatever. And he said, but we're still in the minefield though, even though we're 2/3 closer, to the goal, to the touchdown or the field goal. That we still have to worry about some shit exploding, basically. So, yeah, man, that's
true.
Yeah, that's the way it's looking. But once again, we don't know exactly what's going on. So it's really hard. I mean, for all we know, Manny Pacquiao could be saying, I want to do VADA, I don't want to do USADA, or vice versa. Or he could, it could be when he wants to be tested. I mean, the money, they said they agreed to the money, but so many times they have said they have agreed to certain things, and then we find out that turns out to be a fabrication, right? So, yeah. But anyway.
Exactly. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like I said, I just want to see this fight at this point, but I think both have played a part, their fair share in the fight not happening for whatever reason. And hopefully as fans, as boxing fans, we just get this particular fight. But for anyone, I feel like most people are definitely opinionated, one-sided, and biased if they're going to place all of the blame on this fight not happening on any one party, whether it's Pacquiao or Mayweather. I just don't think you at this point can do that.
Yeah.
There's certain things. I mean, Freddie Roach, you have a video where Freddie Roach said that they played a part. Freddie Roach is on the Fight Game saying that they played a part. So for anyone who blames all of it, and trust me, I'm not saying Mayweather hasn't made certain things difficult, but for anyone that blames it on any one guy, I think that's unjust, man.
Of course. And I hear Arab King called me earlier, and he told me, because I didn't watch it, but he said Skip Bayless, was talking with Stephen A. Smith, and he refused to believe that Floyd Mayweather had actually walked over to Manny Pacquiao to start the conversation, because once again, he believes that Floyd Mayweather is such a coward. There's no way Floyd Mayweather would have the balls to do something like that. But at the same time, I guess he doesn't know that Floyd Mayweather also went over to Manny Pacquiao's hotel suite to continue the conversation, to have an in-depth conversation, right? So, I mean, once again, Ego, this is what I'm saying. This is what misleads all the fans. Like you said, they're just constantly blaming Floyd Mayweather because it's convenient for them. That's who they want to blame, and the only time you see something like this where one guy is actually coming to that guy's hotel, he's walking over to the guy, he's calling him on the cell phone, he's doing this and he's doing that, and they still call him a coward, so, well, once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely true, and again, with boxing comes emotion. People are very prideful, and they think with emotion a lot of times in boxing. I seen, first of all, ESPN or whatever, they muted the conversation, so we don't know what conversation was had.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen people leave comments like, Mayweather looked terrified, he looked scared. And realistically, I mean, how can you draw that conclusion off of the pictures? And if anything, it looked like he had his eyebrows arched. It looked like he didn't look scared per se. So, I mean, people are always going to find a way. I remember on my channel for the Canelo versus Mayweather weigh-in, people said Mayweather was afraid of Canelo because he was chewing his gum hard. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? So people are going to find a way to exaggerate. I don't want to deal with all the hearsay. I'd rather just see the fight in place and just keep it moving.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's move on. There's been some other shocking news as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to call it shocking. Gary Shaw leaves Rock Nation Sports. This is pretty big news, man, because we already know Jay-Z, he had access to the heavyweight undefeated prospect Brian Jennings, who's about to fight Vladimir Klitschko. We know how big that would have been if Jay-Z would have been promoting the guy to take out the lineal heavyweight champion, probably the best heavyweight, in the last, 5, years or so. If he would have been promoting the guy to beat him, that would have been epic. That would have been huge. Now Gary Shaw, he takes that away. So, I mean, I got to ask you, Ego, I mean, does this derail the plans for Rock Nation? Can he recover? Or does he become another 50 Cent? I mean, what do you think, Ego?
Well, I'm actually not – I heard about the situation, but I haven't actually done any research. So, Brian Jennings, Klitschko, is that going to happen?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember if I seen it actually be confirmed, but from what I'm hearing, it's pretty much a done deal. I think it's supposed to be in April, if I recall. I think it's supposed to be in April.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jay-Z. I think a lot of people. I told people when Jay-Z first came into sports or into the boxing world, people didn't realize that he actually had some experience in the sports world. And I'm not saying every sport is similar to boxing, because we know boxing has no governing body, it's corrupt, and different things like that. But just having that type of experience in a similar sports arena, I think that helped Jay-Z. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be another 50 Cent, because 50 Cent kind of came from the music movie scene directly into boxing. And I think 50 Cent came at the boxing world like he came into the rap game, and you can't really do that. He created enemies. Like, I remember he was dissing Oscar De La Hoya in tweets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, I haven't seen Jay-Z do that. So
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be another 50 Cent per se. I think he has some experience with the business, and his approach is different than 50. But Gary Shaw leaving, I mean, it makes you wonder why.
Yeah.
The partnership just started. Toriano Johnson was on the opening card, and that's a Gary Shaw fighter.
Another good fighter.
I know. So, I mean, I don't know. Anytime you lose a promoter, I mean, that could be detrimental to your business, because every promoter, from Gary Shaw to DeBella to Top Rank or Golden Boy, they all have good fighters. There's some fighters that they all have. Other people have bigger stables or whatnot, but they all have talent. So I guess it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, and the good thing is Andre Ward, he still has Andre Ward. Andre Ward is pound for pound, number 2, number 3, wherever you want to put him, the best fighter in the world. I mean, like Oscar De La Hoya said, Oscar said that he compared him to Sugar Ray Leonard. He said, he should be treated like a Sugar Ray Leonard when he, referring to Andre Ward. And then, we still have to see if Rock Nation will sign Guillermo Rigo, another top 5, top 3 pound-for-pound fighter, best fighter in the world. I know if he gets these 2 cats, I mean, that would be pretty big. So, and these are early stages. These are early stages. I'm sure there's a lot of good things to come when it comes to Rock Nation. 2015, I still believe it's going to be a big year for Rock Nation. So, yeah, we'll definitely see. We'll definitely see. So, moving on, man, let's talk about this Terrence Crawford possibly fighting against Chris Algieri. Now we're hearing reports that it's most likely not going to happen because Chris Algieri, according to sources, he's asking for too much money. He's overpricing himself. Now, what's so crazy about this, Ego, is before, the negotiations took place for Terrence Crawford versus Chris Algieri, there's also reports that he was asking for too much money to fight against Sean Porter. Al Heyman, he wanted Sean Porter to fight Chris Algieri on that Spike card. So, I mean, what is this? Is Chris Algieri, is he really just asking for too much money? Does he deserve this money? Or does he believe that these opponents are too much of a threat for him to go up against? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I honestly, this is no disrespect to Team Algieri or Chris Algieri, but after his last performance, and granted it was against a top 10 pound-for-pound Hall of Famer, easy, Manny Pacquiao, but after his, I firmly have an old-school way of thinking when it comes to boxing, and if you take a loss like he took, I mean, getting knocked down, six knockdowns, even though I don't think all 6 of those were legit, I mean, he still got knocked down, and he still really didn't win many rounds. So, in my opinion, my way of thinking, he got knocked down from the ladder. He's no longer undefeated. He looked pretty bad in that, had a bad game plan. So I don't personally think he's in a position to make any demands. And you got to look at Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford is looking like one of the rising stars, a future like superstar in terms of skill and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't really think, even though he's coming up in weight, I don't think Chris Algieri is in a position to be the big boss and call the shots. You already got over $1 million to fight Pacquiao, which was a lot of people didn't feel you worked to get that particular payday. So I'm not saying he should accept peanuts, but I don't think he's really in a position where he can just make boss moves like Floyd Mayweather or Cotto, one of the bigger stars.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys already know, I really like Chris Algieri. You know, he's a cool guy, and he's a good boxer. But I have to honestly speak and say, I truly believe that Chris Algieri, once again, like the Mike Tyson analogy that I always use, you know, I truly believe this is one of those situations, you know, where he feels like, if I'm going to go in there and I'm going to take a chance of losing, you're going to have to pay me damn well for it, right? Because once again, I mean, but, you know, this is not the first time that this has happened where a fighter gets in the ring with a big name and they lose to them, like he lost to Manny Pacquiao, people lose to Floyd Mayweather. All of a sudden, they start thinking that, you know, they're the A side. You know, I was in the ring with them, so I'm the A side. We kind of seen shades of this with Marcos Maidana. You know, after he lost to Mayweather, you know, he started turning down other fights, you know, like Keith Thurman and Adrian Broner rematch. You know, it's like all of a sudden people feel that they're the A side now. But with Chris Algieri, I truly feel that, yeah, he feels like Chris Algieri, he knows how good Terrence Crawford is. You know, and I'm sure he knows how good Terrence Crawford is, and he also knows how good Sean Porter is. You know, so he feels he's not going to get in that ring unless, you know, they are paying him some ridiculous money that a lot of us believe he may not even deserve right now. You know, I mean, your major negotiating chip should not be the fact that you were in the ring with Manny Pacquiao and you lost to him. You know, that's, to me, that really doesn't give you that much of an advantage when it comes to negotiations. You know, but it's not just Algieri. It's other fighters that's doing this as well, Ego. I mean, we also have Lucas Matisse. Once again, this is one of those tough guys who you wouldn't expect him, you know, to be doing this. But it was only, a month ago where Adrian Broner was aggressively calling out Lucas Matisse. This is a fight that all of us would love to see. And Lucas Matisse, he basically turned down the fight. He said, you know, I gained nothing, you know, fighting against Adrian Broner. He doesn't have a title. I want a title shot, and he doesn't have one, right? But now the talks are that he's going to possibly fight against Ruslan Provodnikov March 28th, which is another fighter who doesn't have a title shot or a title, right? Ego, so, I mean, is he contradicting himself? I mean, is this just a case of, you know, I don't really like to use the word too much, but it's thrown out there a lot, cherry picking. I mean, is he just being really selective with his opponents right now, Ego?
Yeah, I mean, again, with boxing comes fickle fans, double standards, and this is just a clear example. Now, I like Matisse for his style, hard, tough, he can crack and stuff like that. But, I mean, you got to call a spade a spade. And, again, the trouble with the lie, or when some of these boxers, they really just need to leave it to their PR people to speak for them, because they end up putting their foot in their mouth. Because, again, Matisse, the thing with the lie is sooner or later everything comes to light. So if you say, like Leo Santa Cruz, for example, saying, I'm not fighting Rigondeaux for this reason, X, Y, and Z, okay, we hear that, and then you fight a lesser opponent who's not a champion, who no one knows, then it makes your excuse or your reasoning or your rationale of thinking seem suspect. And that's kind of what it is for Matisse. You can't say Broner is not a good, lucrative option because X, Y, and Z, and he's not a champion, and then fight another non-champion. Now, I have no problem with Matisse versus Ruslan. I think that's a good fight. But people are quick to say Broner is calling out Pacquiao, he's calling out Marquez, he's calling out Matisse, and doesn't want to fight. But he's calling them out, and Matisse is one of the people he's calling out. So why not take him up on his offer?
Yeah, why not take him? And Yeah, and we already know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to see Matisse versus Provodnikov fight. But the only thing I'm saying is you leave yourself wide open, for criticism when you make the excuse that you made why you're turning down an Adrian Broner fight. Like you said, let some PR team speak for you, and stop, leaving yourself open for unnecessary counters because that's, what it looks like now. So, but what do you think about that fight, Ego? How do you see that? Well, I'll tell you how I see the fight playing out, first of all. I would love to see, like I said, Matisse versus Provodnikov. I believe that Matisse is looking at his options, and he's looking at who he has a better chance of beating, with not too many risks that he's taken. Now, don't get me wrong, he's taking a risk at getting in the ring with Provodnikov because of his aggression. He puts a lot of pressure. He has the power. He has a good chin. But I truly believe that Lucas Matisse, he knows how to box a little bit. We've seen him box in the Zab Judah fight. He did pretty good. He has a great jab. He has a good defense. And he knows that a fighter like Provodnikov, he could possibly outbox. And, I can see him boxing. I can see him working on the inside, doing a little bit of both, and possibly maybe even taking out Provodnikov or, outboxing him for 12 rounds. How do you see that fight playing out?
I think it's a very fan friendly fight, like a casual fan, diehard fans, we could all like that. I mean, I would try to get to that just because of the pure excitement, entertainment value. They're talking about having it in my state of California at the StubHub.
Nice.
So I would try to get to it. As far as matchup, I agree with you. I think Lucas is more of a boxer puncher than people give him credit for. He showed those adjustments in the Molina fight. He was kind of slugging it in the first round, and then Molina can crack too, so he had some trouble, got knocked down twice, and then he made some adjustments in terms of boxing more, which opened up the TKO stoppage or whatever later in the fight. So Ruslan, he's dangerous. It's risky just because he has that type of power, but I agree he's more one-dimensional. He has his feet in cement. It's just, I mean, the biggest thing is his power and his aggression. So if you can get past that and frustrate him a bit, then it should be a win for Matisse. It's just a matter of if he connects with something big enough. But it's a good fight.
Yeah, it's definitely a good fight. So they're talking about possibly staging that at the StubHub, huh?
Yeah, they're saying at the StubHub. I mean, StubHub, if you look at the history, they've had some pretty good bangers. Matisse, Molina, and I think they're trying to make that kind of a newer landmark for those types of fights. Keith Thurman and Diaz fought there. So I think they're trying to make action-friendly fights, Marquez and Alvarado, those types of fights at that StubHub.
Yeah, and like I said, and for for the fans out there, it's a great arena. It's a great arena because there's not one single bad seat in the entire arena. Because it's outdoors, and the way it's set, you could be sitting all the way at the top, and you still have a great view. So I really like the arena over there at the StubHub, but or the setup, I should say. So yeah, let's move on. Gary Russell versus Johnny Gonzalez. That's another good fight. What do you think about that fight? I'll let you start off on this one, Ego.
It's a good fight. Is it the best featherweight match that could be made? I don't think so, but it's still a good fight. Gary Russell Jr., his last fight, his power didn't look the same. Like, I don't know, maybe it was just a tough opponent, but his last fight, his power, he looked like he was throwing a little bit more pity-pat shots. Johnny Gonzalez is a good fighter. He's strong. Gary Russell Jr. has the advantage in speed, definitely, and athleticism. So it's a good fight. I would still like to see more unifications at that division, like the Johnny Gonzalez versus Lomachenko, things like that. But it's a solid fight.
Yeah, I think Gonzalez or Johnny Gonzalez, his style is almost tailor-made for what Gary Russell is used to. He doesn't have the boxing ability that Lomachenko had. He doesn't have the counter-punching ability, the overall ring generalship that Lomachenko had. I think with Johnny Gonzalez, he's slower. Like you said, Gary Russell, he has a tremendous speed. Gary Russell, as far as I'm concerned, is a much better boxer than him. You remember There was a time when Gary Russell was the number one contender. He was Johnny Gonzalez's mandatory, and Johnny Gonzalez, he turned that fight down. So now, since Johnny Gonzalez is signing this deal with Al Heyman, once again, the guy who's not supposed to put his fighters in there tough, he's putting Johnny Gonzalez in there with possibly the toughest opponent that Johnny Gonzalez could face. In fact, he's putting him in there with a guy that Johnny Gonzalez didn't even want to fight. So, I really see Gary Russell. This is an opportunity right here for Gary Russell to really shine. Now, but of course, if Johnny Gonzalez pulls off the upset, because that's what I believe it will be, is an upset, because he, I think rightfully so, he should be an underdog in this fight if you're looking at the skill. But if Johnny Gonzalez were to pull off the upset, this propels his career, no doubt about it. So and it makes him, damn near, maybe the A side depending on who he's fighting against next. So, but I'm leaning towards Gary Russell to pull that victory out, and I look forward to seeing him. I believe that he will be very impressive in a victory in that fight. So, yeah, man, we will see. We will see. And that fight, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add on to what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think especially since the Lomachenko loss, because I actually picked Gary Russell to beat Lomachenko. I always respected Lomachenko's fight game. I just thought his speed would get him through it, and I thought he had respectable power, but he didn't look great. So I think that's a very good competitive kind of comeback fight for Gary Russell Jr. if he does win. And then for the record, I also think Abner Mares doesn't really want any parts of Johnny Gonzalez in a rematch. That's my opinion.
Wow.
So I think this is a good match. I mean, obviously I want to see that rematch with Abner Mares and Johnny Gonzalez, but again, I don't think Mares really wants it. So this is kind of like the next best thing other than a unification bout.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then we also have Canelo versus Kirkland. Is that fight official yet, or are they still trying to work out the kinks when it comes to that fight, Ego?
They as far as I'm knowing, they both signed for the fight and they're on board. Again, Mayweather holds a lot. People sleep on this. Mayweather has a lot of influence and a lot of power. Whether you hate him, whether you hate hearing his voice, whatever the situation is, he has a lot of power. You can't take it away from the man. You got to give him credit for the things he deserves credit for. And he has a lot of influence on the game. So I think the Canelo-Kirkland is supposed to happen May 2nd, but it all depends on Mayweather's next move, because if Mayweather-Pacquiao is announced for May 2nd, I really don't think Oscar is going to have the gall to compete with that. So as far as I know, the fight is done, is signed, and both parties agreed to catch weight at 155. It's just the date and the venue is kind of dependent on Mayweather, who he's fighting and when he's fighting.
Mm-hmm. Does James Kirkland have any chance of winning that fight?
I think he definitely has a chance of winning. It's just I got to see what version of Kirkland. That's the thing with Kirkland. He's a hell of a fighter when he's on, but when he's off, it makes you like he lost to a non-puncher in the Sheeta, and like people don't forget stuff like that. So if he comes like he came against a young Glenn Tapia who was strong and very aggressive early, then he can pose a lot of problems for Canelo. I would lean towards Canelo. Kirkland has a shot if it's the Glenn Tapia version of Kirkland, and he comes just like a tank and that Ann Wolf training, and he just comes really hungry and it gets to, past the third round or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think Kirkland has a chance to make it interesting.
Yeah. I mean, this fight could turn out a lot like you said, the Glenn Tapia fight or the Alfredo Angulo fight, where, James Kirkland getting knocked down, getting hurt badly earlier on, and then all of a sudden it's almost like the knockdown wakes him up, and then all of a sudden that train starts smoking, and he starts putting that pressure on you, and he starts to break down opponents. But Canelo Alvarez, I would give Canelo a lot more credit, of course, when I'm comparing him to fighters like Angulo and Glenn Tapia, he definitely has a lot more skill and boxing ability and knowledge in the ring than they do. So, yeah, man, I'm definitely leaning towards Canelo. I think Canelo, he'll most likely, he won't fall for the traps that Angulo and Glenn Tapia fought, but it's possible. We've seen Canelo Alvarez get hurt against Jose Cotto. You know, we've seen him get caught with a lot of shots. We don't really know how comfortable he's going to be fighting against an opponent who will go on the inside and will throw volume punches, not like a slow, lethargic Angulo, but, you know, James Kirkland, he's going to throw those punches on the inside with a lot more speed, you know, so in a lot more boxing ability. You know, he's aggressive on the inside, but he's very selective with his combinations, you know, so this will definitely be a test for Canelo Alvarez, but the bigger test, and I think Canelo Alvarez and Team Canelo, they know this. The biggest test or the bigger test would have been against Joshua Clottey. I think Joshua Clottey would have been a much tougher opponent than James Kirkland, and it's really just because, like you said, we have to figure out if which James Kirkland is going to show up. Is it going to, you know, is his chin going to be able to hold up? And that's really what it comes down to. If James Kirkland's chin holds up, this is a very tough fight for Canelo Alvarez, you know. But once again, like I said, Joshua Clottey, I truly believe, you know, he would have been a very, very tough test for Canelo Alvarez because I believe Joshua Clottey, he probably can box better than Canelo Alvarez. And we know he has a better defense. You know, he's never been knocked out before. I think he's only been knocked down once against Miguel Cotto, and that was a flash knockdown by a jab. So, yeah, man, I think it's smart for them to pick James Kirkland over Joshua Clottey. So.
Yeah, I agree with most of it. I think the only thing I would disagree with, I think Clottey has a black cloud over him for his performance in the Pacquiao fight too. But overall, he has a better sound defense, and Canelo's a hell of an inside fighter. So Kirkland, stylistically on paper, is an easier fight for what Canelo excels at. Canelo will struggle with movers like Mayweather, guys that can box you and move and hit and fight off the back foot, Laura, those types of styles. So stylistically, Kirkland is more up Canelo's alley. But like you said, the battle of attrition, the heart, if he's fully focused, that could be interesting. But the only thing, he's not off to a good foot, because I talked to some people, and in his off season, they said he was weighing 200 pounds, over 200 pounds.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
You know what I mean? Like, he's going to have to spend a lot of training camp dropping weight and stuff like that. So that might not be a good look, losing, what they're at, 55? So, yeah, you're losing at that point over 50 pounds.
Yeah, damn near 50, 45 pounds, whatever. But, they're going to be at 155.
And I've seen some recent pictures. And actually, I got to give props to Canelo. I've seen some recent pictures of Canelo. And after the Mayweather loss, he ballooned up in weight, but it looks like he's been managing his weight because he was, like, swimming or something, and he looks in good shape. He doesn't look far from his fight weight. He might be low 170s, 160, but definitely not looking as soft as he did after the Mayweather ass whooping.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. And not only do you have to be concerned with James Kirkland's weight, but also how long he's been out of the ring. Even if he didn't have the weight issues, you just been out of the ring for so long, and then you going up against Canelo Alvarez. I mean, that's is not just a stepping stone. So I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what Kirkland can bring to the dance. So you got anything on your mind you want to talk about, Ego?
Yeah, let's talk about, I don't know if you heard, but Carl Froch vacated his belt, and Andre Durrell just called out James DeGaulle, said basically he'll beat that ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's literally pretty much what he said.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Froch vacating his championship belt?
You know what, man? I think, once again, like we was talking earlier, when we was talking about Chris Algieri, when we was talking about Lucas Matisse, I think a lot of these fighters are starting to acknowledge certain fighters that will give them tremendous problems. They will give them all types of problems. I really wanted to see Froch fight against Durrell. I wanted to see the Froch-Durrell rematch because I truly believe Durrell, he won the first fight. And I think even Froch feels like, man, I was real lucky to get that decision. I don't think Froch wants to fight these guys, man. I think he's stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. He's been forced to get in the ring with opponents that he does not want to fight. He wants to get that fight. I think he wanted to get the fight with Julio Cesar Chavez. I don't know what happened with those negotiations, but that would have been.
He got injured.
He got injured, but they could have postponed it though, right? I mean, they could have pushed it.
They did, and then Chavez is fighting Andre
from Farah, yeah.
Yeah, so he chose not to wait it out for Froch to recover. But from what I hear, Team Chavez, if they get past Farah, they still want to push for the Froch fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking right now that may be the only fighter that Froch will fight right now. I mean, he's almost on some Marquez stuff right now. You know, Marquez doesn't really want to fight Kell Brook. You know, when Sean Porter was a champ, he didn't really want to fight Sean Porter. He's looking for the safest opponent that he could pick right now. I think that's what Carl Froch is doing right now. You know, so I don't see him. I don't see him getting in the ring with the Durrells, the DeGauls, or any of those guys. And then he keeps talking about, and like I said, the situation is very similar to Marquez, because 1 minute they're talking about or they're contemplating fighting against a champion or a good opponent. Next thing you know, they're talking about retiring. And then they go back and forth, you know, talking about that. So, you know, that's how I basically see it. I think it's going to be Froch versus Chavez, and then probably retirement, because Froch don't want to lose. He don't want to go out. I mean, nobody does, but Froch doesn't want to go out with a loss, especially against a guy like Durrell, who on paper he already beat. You know, so that's how I see it. I mean, what do you think? You think Carl Froch is going to retire? You think he's going to fight one of these guys? You think he's just trying to get Chavez and that's it, or what?
I agree with you. I definitely think Durrell beat him, and it was some hometown cooking in the Carl Froch fight. I don't care what anyone says. I thought Durrell won that particular fight. And even if it was close or whatever, and you think Carl Froch won, at the end of the day, it's still a bit of an asterisk because it was that type of fight. And the notion that the fact, like, okay, nobody's saying Chris Algieri beat Manny Pacquiao. No one's saying that Canelo beat Mayweather.
Yeah.
So just the fact that there's a lot of controversy and people screaming robbery, it seems like you would want to avenge that loss.
Yeah.
But I agree. I like Carl Froch. No disrespect to Carl Froch, but he's later in his career. He feels he's earned his stripes, so he's picking and choosing. He's picking and choosing kind of the fight. He said something like, I want to fight Chavez or retire. That's it. I want to fight Chavez. I mean, why would you take the least skilled in terms of athleticism and skill? You can't say Chavez. Chavez is tough, and I like Chavez too, but you can't say he's more skilled in terms of finesse than Andre Ward, than Andre Durrell, than James DeGaulle. You can't say that. You can say he's tough as hell, he has a good pop, and he has a hell of a chin, but he's not more like athletically gifted than any of those dudes, and that's the guy he's gunning for. And it's just getting to a point where you're getting a lot of boxers who kind of acting diva-ish, and like James DeGaulle isn't big enough for me. You know what I mean? Just fight the top fights in the most, you know what I mean? It's a good fight. James DeGaulle is a good fight. He's on the up and coming. So, you know what I mean, make the fights that need to happen.
Yeah. And you just touched on another point, Ego. I mean, how crazy is it that you have so many fighters out there that are just openly saying, I don't want to fight that guy. That guy, you know, he's not big enough. This, that, you know. But yet, no one is raining on these guys with criticism of calling them cowards, chickens, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, like I said, it's unbelievable to me that, once again, Floyd Mayweather, he could be actually negotiating with Manny Pacquiao, and yet he's the only fighter that they call a coward and a chicken. But then you have these other fighters, they're not even trying to negotiate. They're just telling you straight up, I'm not interested. I don't want to fight that guy. You know, I mean, like I said, man, the double standards, man, are just unbelievable in the sport of boxing, you know. So, but, you know, that's what it is, man. And speaking of talking about Floyd Mayweather, I did want to ask you about this. Now, I was going to wait because Norin, he had a lot to say when it comes to this topic right here. But I'm going to just bring it up a little bit. I did an interview with Kevin Kelly, right? And, you know, Kevin Kelly was talking about Floyd Mayweather. And, you know, the interview, it was on a couple other sites or whatnot. Now, Kevin Kelly, we asked him, how does he rate Floyd Mayweather? And he said, I will put, Floyd Mayweather in the top 20. He said, ain't nobody going to beat him. He dominated his era. Nobody will beat him. But then he said that, but his entertainment level is not that good, and so on and so forth. So he tried to basically make it seem like, he's saying that Floyd Mayweather is dominant, he's unbeatable, so on and so forth. But because he doesn't believe, or he personally doesn't believe, that Floyd Mayweather is entertaining enough, that he's taking, points away from Floyd Mayweather because of that. I mean, does that make any sense? I mean, for you to basically base how good a fighter is on how entertaining he is? What do you think about that?
No, I mean, boxing, as long as boxing's been around, or at least as long as I'm watching it, you get different styles. That's the beauty of it. You get a guy who might have finesse and great footwork, or the best defense like Pernell Whitaker. You get the guys like Arturo Gatti who are just warriors and tough. That's what makes boxing fun. If everybody fought like Lucas Matisse and Ruslan, or everyone fought like Mayweather, it wouldn't be boring. So it's just like all my movie fans. If you watch the movie Bloodsport, the Kumite, they had all types of different people from different backgrounds. They had like a sumo wrestler. They had Van Damme. They had this African dude. You know what I'm saying? You had people from all over.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't care about that. The whole goal is who's the best pitted against all the styles. So, I mean, as far as, he's not entertaining enough, this is not WWE. This is who's the best, who has the most talent, who has the most skill, who is unbeatable, or you know what I'm saying, or who has the best record, and you know what I mean, things like that. So you can't take away from Floyd Mayweather because you personally don't like his style, or Rigondeaux. I mean, Rigondeaux's a hell of a fighter, whether you think he's boring or not. At the end of the day, it's up to his opponents to make those adjustments to knock him out, and then we don't have to worry about him anymore. But they can't do that because he's on a different skill level. Then it is what it is.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's you're contradicting yourself in a certain sense anyway when you say that he's not exciting and so on and so forth, because the last couple of fights that Floyd Mayweather has been in, from the Maidana fight, the Cotto fight, the Canelo fight, even going back to HBO, Victor Ortiz, you had all of these commentators basically saying this is the most exciting fight I've seen Floyd Mayweather in. But then they keep saying that over and over against different opponents. I mean, like I said, I've been watching the crowd, listening to the crowd. I mean, you seeing standing ovations in between rounds even when Floyd is just boxing, you seeing standing ovations, you seeing the crowd here. So I mean, I don't even think it has anything. Like I always say, it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with if Floyd Mayweather is boring or not. It's a simple case of you saying, I don't like the guy. And once again, like I tell people, if your basketball team, if your football team, or your favorite fighter is getting their ass kicked, in a fight or in a game, of course it's going to be boring to you. Why would it be exciting to watch your team lose? How many times have you watched a basketball game and your team was getting their ass kicked and you just turned the channel? You turn the channel because it's not exciting anymore. So I mean, that's really what really what it comes down to. There is nothing Floyd Mayweather could do that these fans will call exciting or entertaining. The only thing that they would consider entertaining is Floyd Mayweather getting knocked the fuck out. You know what I mean? So, or losing, even if it was a robbery. So that's pretty much.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I agree with everything. I agree with everything you just said. I mean, if you go in there with like these premeditated expectations on what you want to happen, or in your heart you're not going to give the man regardless of anything else, then of course, you know what I'm saying, you already have a negative attitude towards the whole fight. And like you said, there have been, the Cotto fight was good, the first Maidana fight, these were entertaining. But again, the thing is, when you're on top so long, and when your skills are there's so much separation in your skills from other people, then yeah, your fights, like to me, Chris Algieri versus Pacquiao wasn't exciting. Like, okay, he got knocked down.
Exactly.
But it wasn't exciting because Chris Algieri wasn't really doing anything, and you could see that clear gap of talent. You know what I'm saying? Even the Maidana 2 fight, personally, was more of a interesting, the Mayweather Maidana versus the Algieri, because at the end of the day, I know Maidana can crack. So, and he's improving. So when he hit him with that shot at the end of the third, I was like, okay, this could get interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
But without Jury, he was getting his ass beat. So it was like to the point where I knew there's no home run for a fighter like Algieri with his particular DNA as a fighter. With Maidana, you always have that John Molina, Mickey Bay type of this could change in one round, give him one punch, and you don't really get that. So to me, people, they're going to hate regardless.
They're going to hate regardless. And like you said, you bring up an excellent point real quick with Mayweather versus Maidana. There was always that question, what's going to happen if Maidana lands flush? And even after the third round, okay, we seen him kind of hurt and wobble Mayweather. Can he do it again before the 12th round? So, the suspense is always there. The drama is always there. But, once it's official that Floyd Mayweather is going to win the fight, then it's no more, it's no longer exciting anymore because they didn't get what they wanted, so, but anyway.
Exactly. And if you look at Mayweather's probably since Ricky Hatton, he's always been outweighed by his opponent. Like, name one opponent, don't bring up Marquez, talk about his recent opponents, and name somebody that Mayweather has, like, outweighed by 10, 15 pounds. You know what I mean? So to me, there's always a bit of danger. Plus, the man's almost 40. So people are always going to wonder, is Mayweather going to slow down enough to the point where someone could capitalize? So to me, like even the Maidana fight for the first, you know what I mean? I was like, damn, is Maidana going to be able to get off? He's outweighing them. He's in the 160 right now.
Yeah.
So it's always that suspense because we know Maidana's tough. He has power. And when is Father Time going to catch up with Floyd? That's what people want to know, so they tune in.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's always David and Goliath with Floyd Mayweather as far as I'm concerned. And this is the reason why Manny Pacquiao is not fighting the Maidana. This is the reason why he's not fighting the Canelo Alvarez, because he doesn't want to be, David going up against Goliath. So that's pretty much all I got, guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, checking it out. Once again, if you want to watch this show live, now I'm going to go ahead and mix it up on you guys. I'm going to change it up. You can watch this show live on the new website, nationboxing.com. Okay, we'll have that set up for you guys next week. So you can watch it live on nationboxing.com. And also the show will be broadcasting, or be airing, I should say, Tuesday, 4:05 Pacific Standard Time. And as always, let me go ahead and thank my guest, Boxing Ego. Check his YouTube channel out. You know your boy over here, Dante's Boxing Nation, nationboxing.com. We will see you next week. I'm on to the next one.
Peace.